I wanted to talk a little bit about when you first became a squadron commander.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like to study excellence and processes. And how did you get, or what did you do to get that squadron to have an outstanding readiness rating, first time in 48 years?
Yeah.
What was your process to go in and do that?
Yeah.
Because like I said, I'm always interested in excellence and how people think and get things done.
Yeah, and just to lay a backdrop for those that aren't real familiar with the military, we have a closed personnel system, so everybody enters in the bottom, work their way up. And in the military lane, in which you are an aviator in the military, it takes you about 15 years to command.
Okay.
You don't command as a lieutenant. You might be a flight commander or aircraft commander, but to command a squadron, you're normally a lieutenant colonel, and that takes you 15 years to get there. So it's a long row. So you do a lot of leadership things along the way, small bites, and then just really the apex of any flying person's career is to command your own squadron.
And squadron, how many airplanes is that? So
it depends on the type of airframe. For me, I flew the KC-135, which is our refueling platform. Yes. I literally passed gas in the air.
Yes.
Bill, that's what we did. Planes would come up behind us and we would refuel them in the air. And that allowed them to fly across the pond. It allowed them to be somewhere within 24 hours. So, that we were the force multiplier for anybody. Nobody went anywhere without tankers.
Yep.
So in a tanker squadron, you have 12 KC-135s valued at $14 million, basically a pop. So it's a very expensive airframe. Yep. And then you will have between 100 and 200 troops under your command. And what was interesting, I became one of the first women to command an operational flying squadron, meaning not training, but actually ones that deploy around the world. And in that work, I had my husband. So not only did they get me as a female squadron commander, they got my husband as the squadron commander's spouse, which was new in the day. Think about it.
Right.
Late 90s, we hadn't had many women command, so it wasn't the...
So was he your subordinate?
He
was
flying for the airline, so he was out by then. Okay. We had met and married in the military, but he had gotten out. So now here's a man who's doing a role that normally was done by women, the wives, and here was a woman normally doing the role that was done by men in the military. And what was interesting about us at that time, and the thing that I did different, and I think why we were so successful, is we looked at our troops, because it's an all-volunteer force now, and a military aviator is about worth $8 million at his or her 10-year point, because we're so expensive to train and keep you current and the whole 9 yards. And they would get out because airlines were hiring. Yes. And what I found as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, and then as a squadron commander and a lieutenant colonel was, if I could keep the family happy, then I could keep him happy, and he or she would tend to stay in the military longer. So my husband and I worked to take care of the family. So when I took the troops and we deployed overseas, my husband worked really hard to take care of all the families that were left. When we had ice storms, we would call up every single family and make sure they were okay. And my husband flew for an airline. Yes. Trust me, no airline called me to see if I was okay when my husband was off flying, right? Yeah. So we were able to work hard. If your car broke down, we'd find somebody to help fix it. So we took the military family as a unit, not just the person who was flying the airframe. So that was something different. And when I tell you, the person that's deploying with me, I got your family back at home, you just do the job at hand. Because it's not the squadron commander's job to do the mission. Your job is to train them and give them all tools that they need in order for them to do the mission. That's what a true leader does, is it empowers and it enables those that work for them or those that are with them to do what they do.
So in some ways you looked outside the box.
Oh, sure.
Instead of being right here, you looked broader.
Right. Yeah.
So was it anything as far as the process that, we need to improve our scheduling, we need to get more data in, we need to do any of that? Because it looked like, one, you took care of your people better, but was there anything that you changed as far as your processes within that squadron to make it better?
That's a good question too. The military at that time was, and I think, and I'll spin this a little bit, so bear with me, I'm going to go off on a trail a little bit here. But
you take the long way around.
Yeah, I do. Explain it all. So, look, everybody thought the military would change if we just put women among the ranks. Right. And I would offer to you that probably happened all across the spectrum of any other country. Just get women lawyers, just get women docs, and the world will change. Right. And that didn't happen. Okay, when we have daughters of men who are senior officers, well, then the world will change because they'll make sure that their daughters are treated well, blah, blah, blah. And that didn't happen. What changed the military for the better is when women ascended in rank and got in positions of power as leaders. And then they set the environment for which their troops would behave. And you held them accountable, and you reinforced their behavior when they did what you thought was the best thing. And that, I think, is what has fundamentally changed our military for the better. So in your question, reflecting back your question, some of the things we changed was, when I was in pilot training, you were trained by fear, sarcasm, and ridicule. And so what we did is, people will respond. You don't have to treat them like that. They want to be pilots. They want to do right by you. So why not correct in private, right, and compliment in public? And so that was something that I spun. Now, trust me.
So even as late as the 90s, they were still doing fear?
Oh yeah, up until, a lot of folks, it was right, and again, as women ascended, then we're like, okay, we're not gonna, this is not how we're gonna run our squadrons. And so that kind of changed it. It was the influx of a lot of women that came into these leadership positions that fundamentally changed the behavior of the military and then changed the environment in which you could be successful. So it wasn't always, a fight at the table in front of the, in front of the boss as to who was the better. It was, here, this is what my troops are doing, and let me just tell you how it's working. Now, if you messed up in my squadron, you knew it in about 5 seconds, and it used to be a joke that I was the queen of the queen of the squadron. You would be banished from the kingdom. And now I see Game of Thrones. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd have had dragons too. So anyway,
can they have dragons?
No,
in the Force? That would be cool.
That would be cool. We had an airplane. The U-2 was called the Dragon. It's kind of funny. It's interesting. Yeah, he flew high, didn't spit fire, but anyway, the point is that. If you're a female, if you're diverse, if you come from a different socioeconomic status, how you view the world is different, and having that diversity brought to any kind of leadership table, I think, is what we need.
Now, was it hard to be able to get senior, I almost have to say management, senior officers to buy into? I'm not going to use fear anymore. I'm going to be more collaborative. Do you understand where I'm going?
Yeah, well, it was hard anyway. I mean, think about it. I'm on the leading edge of women cutting through, and there were men almost to the bitter end that thought women had no business in the military. And
they told you so.
And they would tell you up front. They were compelled to tell you how they felt.
How did that make you feel?
Well, how do you think it made me feel?
You're part of the team.
Yeah.
And then someone comes in and says, Tim,
I don't think you have any business being here.
Yeah, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
How did you handle? I'm serious. How do you Everyone has how'd you handle that?
Well, ask the millions of women and folks that others don't think they belong there. Whether it's your gender, whether it's your color of your skin, what religion you practice. That still goes on today.
I feel it.
Yeah, I mean, so this is why you run for office. This is why you bear witness to things can change and we can be better. We can be a better America. We can be a better Texans by being inclusive versus having this, pitting one another against each other for fear because they look different, they practice different, or they love different. And I know from my military experience, that's why I'm just so called to do this, is the last bastion, I believe, in which we need diversity is in the political arena. I mean, 70% of our representatives are white male. And yet they're a minority, especially in Texas. So we need those voices at the table, and the only way you get them there is you get out and run. So if you're contemplating it, run.